and welcome back to another episode of Authentically Divine. I'm your host, Alyssa Davis, and this week's episode is going to be about what does authenticity look like to me? What is authenticity? How to navigate towards creating an authentic life. And it's huge because this whole entire podcast is about being authentic and having the divinity associated with being authentic to yourself. As you know, every week I feature an item or a product that I love, and this week, because it's the middle of summer, I am featuring the Rowe Casa Outdoor Collection. It's an all-natural protective tanning oil, and it also is tinted. So Rowe Casa is a clean ingredient brand, and it's a clean ingredient company. So I have actually had this for a couple of years. I don't get to use it that often because I don't spend a lot of time in the sun where I'm like tanning for hours. But I've brought this to the beach. My friends have used this, and the ingredients being all organic, starting off with organic olive oil, avocado oil, carrot seed oil, raspberry seed oil, natural mica powder or mica powder, and 100% pure therapeutic grade essential oils, lavender and sandalwood, so it smells good. But honestly, I used this stuff today and it was amazing. The UV was 8 and I absolutely loved it. Got a little bit more tan than normal because of using it, and it's perfect. I'll put a little bit of sunscreen on and then switch over to the tanning oil after a while, or vice versa. But Rowe Casa, if you want to check them out. So this week's episode is about being authentic, and what does that look like for me? So the reason why I've chosen to do this podcast and all of these episodes is because I have navigated through life trying to fit the bill for what everyone had wanted me to be. I was a people pleaser, chronically people pleasing, and starting off at my early years of being bullied, I chose to find ways to fit in, even though I never truly did. I was constantly just trying to fit the bill of what everyone wanted me to be because I didn't know who I was. And the strength that comes with knowing who you are is what allows you to continue to be authentic. And me being almost 27 at this point, everything that I have gone through has brought me to the point of standing firm in the true understanding of who I am as a person. So that's my message today, is to encourage everyone to take these steps that I will outline so that you can live your true authentic self. Let's dive right in. This past week, I actually was talking with a friend the other day, and we were talking about how we're in, if in larger groups, she mentioned that she will have anxiety. And she said she suffers from anxiety and was dealing with a couple of things associated with it. Especially, it becomes much larger of an issue when she's in public places with large groups of friends or groups of people. And, this is what inspired the episode for today, is because I used to feel that same exact way. And when I was drinking, when I felt that anxiety being in large groups, I would completely drink way over my capacity and would end up being to the point of blacking out because my anxiety was so bad being around people like that. And, now that I've removed alcohol from the situation, I have understood more things about groups of people and situations and friendships than ever before, because it strips away the capacity for you to be anything but yourself. So in one way, removing alcohol has allowed me to be further authentic to who I am. And I would encourage anyone, if you are on the fence about it, being authentic is a much better situation than if you were to be drinking and choosing to be someone else. But we can start off in this scenario that I was referencing with a friend. I told her that her compass is actually the way she's feeling around these groups of people. If you're around groups of people and you're recognizing that you feel off or you have massive amounts of anxiety, that's your body telling you, and your mind and your heart is telling you that that isn't where you belong. And I didn't know that. This might be a shock to a lot of people, but I'm telling you to use that as a compass to lead you to the people that you should be around. For reference, I asked, how does it feel when you're around your boyfriend? They've been in love for so long, and, I wanted to just have an understanding and kind of open the door to this type of conversation. And she said she's fully comfortable. When you're around him, don't you just feel recharged? You can, your battery is not being expended. You feel good. It's no effort. And she said, yes. And that's how I feel being around my boyfriend. And now I've been around people, I've made friends that make me feel recharged, not draining my battery. And I used to feel that same way around big groups of friends and people. And I told her that I realized that anxiety is actually what you should use to have an understanding of who you should be spending your time with. What that is your body is not feeling safe. Your body is not liking who you're around. You are not able to be authentically yourself. And for the longest time, I pushed that feeling, that intuition that I was in the wrong spot, just to try to fit in, or just to seem like I'm the cool one, or, going and being around groups of people that like to party or do things that I don't personally like. I would show up and I would have all of those anxieties. And I'm not saying like, don't show up for, your friend's birthday if they're having something. Like, yeah, you can show up. But if you truly have something that is telling you that where you're about to go, or how you're feeling about a situation, or you've been in this situation before with these groups of people and you don't feel like yourself and you have major anxiety and you can't sit still, I want you to look within yourself and see who it is that you're around and why do you feel that way. Are they talking about people? Is it just constant complaining? Is it these surface level type of conversations, and you're more of a person like myself where you like to dive in and ask deep questions? If you aren't finding that fulfillment within those friendships or the people that you are around, and you're around them and you have anxiety, I would say to pull back and reevaluate everything, because there is no rule to who you hang out with and what you do. For the holiday that just recently came about, everyone, it was July 4th, everyone typically goes out and gets drunk. And, for me last year when I was drinking, I blacked out. I was completely obliterated because I had anxiety being in a group of people that I didn't know that well. And I just, this is why I'm bringing it up, is because I completely tried to avoid feeling that way by numbing it with alcohol. And I'm not saying that this is what everyone does, and maybe you're the type of person that doesn't drink, but you are finding that you're having anxiety in groups of people, and you're like, maybe I actually just suffer from anxiety. It's like, you could, I'm not knocking that, and that very well could be, but if you are finding that you have anxiety, and it's shooting through the roof when you are around certain people, that is your self-awareness that is coming in, and your intuition that you should listen to, that something is off. For me, when I'm around groups of people and I am just hearing negative conversations about people or constant complaints, like I had mentioned, but especially when people are just constantly talking about other people, women primarily do this. If you're around them and you hear it, it drags me down. I physically feel like the happiness and the brightness about the day start to dimmer and start to darken, and I feel uncomfortable. So I would find, when I was around that type of environment, I would find a way to engage with it. Back in the day, I would engage in those types of conversations and just feed into it, and then it left me feeling awful and having more anxiety after the fact of hanging out with these people. So, you may not have anxiety in the beginning when you're hanging out with people but you may come home and you feel awful after. You have control over what you say and what you do. The power of the tongue, which the Bible talks about. There is so much power in the tongue. So if you are finding that you don't like to engage in conversation like that and it makes you feel anxious, don't partake and don't allow yourself to feed into it, because that's the world. Sometimes that is the only thing that you'll find in groups of people. And it makes it hard being a woman to navigate that, because you want to have girlfriends and you want to be included. But as it's come along for me, I would rather be with my boyfriend or be with one of my girlfriends doing like an individual task, like us hiking or playing tennis together or just sitting and having a cup of tea, rather than being in a group of people that is just feeding into this negativity. It's not the coolest thing to do. I don't care about being cool. I care about what's right for me and what feels good after I leave this conversation. Being authentic and sticking to who I am. And if I find that I'm around certain people, and maybe you're hearing this and you think, oh yeah, like I don't like to talk about my spouse. I don't ever say bad things about my spouse, but when I'm with the girls and they start talking about how bad their husbands or their boyfriends are, or the men in their life, and I automatically start to think of these things to say, you do have the power of the choice to not engage. And it's truly like, it's just having that self-awareness and being able to understand that where you are at in life is where people will meet you. So you don't have to engage in that. But I wanted to just emphasize the true dynamic of being authentic is amidst all of that happening, being around people that make you semi-uncomfortable or having anxiety, or you're hearing conversation that you don't like, you can choose to speak up and say something that would alternate the conversation. Now, I'm not saying you have to feed into it and say, don't say that about Sally, don't say that about him, but you could rather in turn say something positive. And, if you are a Christian like myself, you could say, just pray for her. I know she's struggling. Clearly, like what you guys are saying, she's struggling. Or you could even just specify, I don't really like to talk about her when she's not around. Or you can walk away if you're not confrontational. But choosing to not engage into that so that you can be authentically yourself is the best way to do it. But being authentic, what that really means for me is having an open heart. When you are very self-aware the way that I am, I can feel my heart start to close up when I'm in groups of people, like I had just mentioned, where they're talking about other people. I can feel my heart start to close up because I'm uncomfortable, and this is not me being authentic. Like now I'm hearing this, and this is not an environment that I chose to be in comfortably. I wouldn't wake up and be like, oh, today I'm going to go spend time talking and gossiping about people. And that's just not it. So if I'm around it and I am ever feeling uncomfortable, even if it's not something serious like that, even if I'm meeting someone for the first time, like a friend or whomever, like a family member or my boyfriend's family or something like that, I stick to being authentically myself. What that means, though, truly is who you are throughout entirety. The issue with a lot of the world nowadays is everyone has a facade and this personality that they're upholding, and they won't. It's like a character. And with social media, everyone has fallen into this, I'm sure, especially if you post. I used to post on social media like trying to cater to my ego for attention. Now I'm posting authentically about the things that I appreciate. Just like, okay, perfect. This is the one, that one, that one, that one. Like the raw, uncut. And that's really not how social media truly is for a lot of people. But I encourage you, if that is something that you're, you want to step away, who cares about the likes? Who cares about the likes? Are these physical people that you are good friends with? Maybe that's how you run your social media, but most of it truly is. It's just for a facade. People will start gossiping about you, or they look to you as inspiration to their own lives. That is also another experience that I've dealt with, is the more I step into who I am, the more people have started to gossip and say things behind my back. That is because what that is people are afraid to be their own individual. In the world that we live in right now, I mean, for example, TikTok is blowing up when a company shows their employees and shows like silly little things that they're doing and showing the process that their business is taking, like the face behind the business rather than just the business. And that's because we are truly being called to be authentic. There is a need for it in this world. Everyone for so long has been just trying to be a certain way and just look a certain way, act a certain way. What the world is like clearly and desperately crying out for is authenticity. Who you are. Who you are in front of a group of people, the people need to know. You know, for me personally, who I follow on social media is typically someone that is just raw. I love to follow, for example, the Just Ingredients woman. She promotes her products that she has made, but in an authentic way to understand about why she has made the changes in her life. Her name is Carolyn, and in case you are not familiar, like for example, she started to talk about why she created these health products and why she does clean ingredient whey protein, and why that was the kickstart is because diet was never something that she was talked with doctors when she was going through depression. And she emphasizes the importance on clean ingredients because her life was almost at its end because she could not bear the depression any longer. And she is raw about her message. And I don't know if you've ever seen like the TikToks or Twitter, like people will joke about the clean brand companies that come out and they're, on the labels, they'll say, like, here's a picture of my family farm, like, back in the 1900s when we started this company, or it's these in-depth stories on the back of like the product to just show the authenticity behind the name of the brand. And people were making like memes about it and just like overemphasizing and being silly with it, but it's true. We need that. It's being called to the public. The public needs it, but I use that as inspiration, and that's why I've been doing these episodes, is because I just want to show my authentic self. And I want everyone to know you build up this power for yourself when you are authentic. You aren't swayed by the motions of people gossiping or, people on this side like fighting or something, or the drama. And it truly does take you separate yourself from it. You have strength because you can't be swayed. But I wanted to emphasize this because as someone that is now stepping into my faith, and I am, again, an all or nothing person. I've said this probably a couple of times now in these episodes. I'm an all or nothing person. If someone starts to talk about faith, or I can talk about Jesus, or I can talk about God, I will throw it in a conversation, even if the people around me do not associate, aren't Christians. And that's because this is now my authentic self. And now, being a follower of God, I know it's Him that is that strength behind me. When you are in your authenticity, you don't care what people think. Now, that's really hard. It's a really hard thing if you are going through life caring about what people think of you. I mean, in this day and age, if you don't like what someone posts, you don't got to say anything, just unfollow them. When you are truly living in authenticity, it doesn't matter who's with you and who's not, because you are finally standing in your own, and you don't need to have anyone validate that for you. I mean, do you really think Martin Luther King Jr. back in the day, when he was talking about equality and going up on stage in front of an opposite race that was against him, do you really think he cared about their opinion of him? Did it affect the fact that he had such a strong message and he stood his ground? No. any powerful person that you can think of. And I thought of Martin Luther King Jr. because of I saw something recently, a picture of him, and I thought, wow, like he really did have a strong message for the times that he was living in. Like, God was behind that man for sure. He made a difference. And the people that make a difference in the world are not the ones that look for others' opinions. They're just living in their authenticity. But one little practice exercise, I guess, to kind of get everyone to understand what I mean. When you're living in authenticity and that release of the anxiety, you don't have it, you're at peace. Imagine yourself, this is a little exercise, so imagine yourself in the ideal place that you want to be in life. Whether you are thinking like, on a vacation, or if you are in your top career, or you just got your family home. Who are you with in this scenario of happiness? Who are you with? Where are you? How do you feel? And then think about it. Does anything else matter? For me, my dream scenario is getting my first house. Like, I'm imagining myself in my first home with my boyfriend, and we have a new dog. We're both happy. That's just the full gist. Home, my boyfriend, happiness, and peace. And yeah, family around there too. Everyone's over for dinner. My best friends. That's what matters. Does it matter what Sally down the block is saying about me? Does it matter about what the troll on Instagram is saying about me in a private account? Does it matter that I'm preaching about gospel on Instagram and somebody has a comment saying that, you can't be washed of sin? No, none of it matters. What that dream scenario in your head is, I want you to envision that in your day-to-day life and get as close as possible to that. That peace. That's what it is for me. That comfortability will also allow you to continue to be authentic. That trust and knowing who you are is what allows you to be authentic. If you are someone that enjoys, fishing, if you are someone that enjoys going hiking, if you are someone that likes to go to restaurants for fun, live in that. Show who you are. Be that person, and don't let any single amount of judgment take you away from living in your own true self and happiness. Because if you start to do that and you allow the opinion of others and the negativity because you're not conforming to what society does as a whole, like a plant. Let's go into this scenario here. Like a plant, if you do not water yourself, your leaves slowly will start to die, which means you as a person, if you are not pouring love into yourself and sticking to your authenticity and doing the things that make you feel alive, parts of you will no longer be parts of you because you forgot about them. You've buried them. And I don't ever want anyone to have to go back and pick through their mind to find what makes them feel alive. If it's as simple as sitting outside reading a book, which is my favorite thing to do these days. I sit outside and I read the Bible every single day. It's my favorite time. I'm at peace. And you know how many people I was friends with in the past that would look at me and be like, really? That you enjoy doing that? Yes. Truly, living in authenticity means stripping away any walls that you have, and it does open you up for judgment. But judgment from who? Who matters? Other than the opinion that God has of you, other than the opinion that you have of you, opinions of others in that way because you want to do something that makes you happy doesn't matter. And that's one thing I've truly learned, especially having people pleased. The opinion of others does not matter If you are to step out and make a change in your own life or make a change in the world that you want to do, you're going to have to open yourself up to judgment, because it's all about who you are as a person. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. This is about you. You only live once. I'm saying this from a standpoint of encouraging you to do good in the world and to do something that makes you feel good. And this has zero reflection of, going down a negative path. This is encouragement for you to call yourself higher, do what makes you feel good, and the rest will follow. If you are in a stage of your life where you feel that you don't have any close friends right now, and you're wanting to just kind of fit in with people so that you can have people around you, I encourage you to keep going through that lonely stage and keep building on yourself, because everything will follow. Take it from me. I've had lots of building stages in my life where it required me to pull back and pour the love into myself. And now that I'm at this point where I stand firm on my authentic self, creating Authentically Divine, I have now the power to pour into the world all the love that I have, and that's why I'm able to share this with you. I just love providing any type of encouragement. So this episode's a little bit shorter than my usual, but this is just to emphasize the authenticity of this episode and of the podcast in its totality. I just want to say thank you so much for being another valued listener. Today's episode of Authentically Divine is close to my heart, as it always is. But thank you again, and I hope everyone has a great week ahead and enjoy the rest of the day.